Over the decades, millions of Afghan refugees have made Pakistan their home. Many sought refuge across the border during the Soviet occupation of 1979. But in recent years, relations between the neighbors have soured. Thousands of Afghan refugees have steadily returned to their country. And in the last year, the numbers have risen sharply. According to Human Rights Watch, more than 250,000 registered Afghan refugees left Pakistan in the last half of 2016. Around 200,000 undocumented Afghans have also returned. The rights group says Pakistan has deliberately forced the exodus.
Pakistan has used various means to coerce out these refugees, including making their legal status more and more insecure, threatening to deport them in the middle of winter, and widespread police abuses, including crippling extortion that has made life impossible for families.
Human Rights Watch says the United Nations should share the blame.
The agency has handed out significant amounts of cash to each and every returning refugee and has remained publicly silent about the unlawful nature of these forced returns.
The UNHCR has denied the accusation, saying it does not promote returns, but helps those who decide to return voluntarily. Afghan refugees are returning to an expanding armed conflict. A resurgent Taliban, Daesh, and NATO airstrikes have caused a record number of civilian deaths since 2009. 1.5 million Afghans are already internally displaced, living in camps where resources are scarce. With nowhere to go, hundreds of thousands of Afghans have fled to Turkey and Europe. Mohammed came to Istanbul a month ago. He'd lived his whole life in Pakistan.
وضعیت افغان‌ها که روز به روز خراب میشن حالات پاکستان خودش خراب بوده روزانه کدام بم او یا کدام کیس میشد نه دیگه باز از اون حکومت خودش که بود از اون طور شکل سر افغان‌ها میچسبن برآمدن از یک جای دیگه جای رفتنم یک زور میطلبنی که یعنی اول که هجرت شده که ما نبودیم.
But life abroad is far from secure. Turkey and the European Union are increasingly rejecting Afghan asylum claims. The international community is stepping in to help Kabul take back large numbers of its own people, but it may risk fueling the very instability it wants stopped. Sandra Gatman, The Newsmakers.
I'm joined now from Dubai by General Abdul Qadir Baluch. He is Pakistan's Minister for States and Frontier Regions. And from Washington, Omar Samad. He's a former Afghan ambassador to Canada and France and is now a senior advisor to Afghanistan's chief executive, Abdullah Abdullah. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Abdul Qadir Baluch, let me start with you, sir. This is from Human Rights Watch. Pakistani authorities have carried out a campaign of abuses and threats to drive out nearly 600,000 Afghans since July 2016. Your response to that, sir?
I would like to know the proof for that. This is something extremely negative and nothing to do with the ground realities. And I don't know what sort of proof Human Rights Watch has got so as to state that we have driven out about 600,000 Afghan refugees out of Pakistan.
Okay, well, they have, for example, they interview a 26-year-old father of two who says, in July, 11 soldiers and police came to our house at 3 a.m. They entered without asking and threw all our things on the floor. They demanded to see our refugee cards and said they were expired. Then they stole all our money and told us to leave Pakistan. Are they lying, or do you agree that that sort of thing might have happened?
I said individuals could be planted for doing stating things like this, but nothing of this sort. Well, I agree with you that about 2 to 3 such instances took place in around Peshawar, where the Peshawar police went for rounding up aliens, the ones who do not have any documents living in our country. And it is the right of any country, if there are people without any documents, they are living in a country, they can be questioned. But the moment I learned about it, that some of these guys were Afghan refugees, I straight away spoke to the Chief Minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Parvez Khattak. I asked him, And his viewpoint was that is the federal government prepared to give instructions to them not to touch any alien living in the country? I said, well, there are no such instructions, but if there are Afghans and if they could be recognized as such, they should not be harassed, nothing should happen to them. Then I wrote two demi-official letters to him, and I also detailed the chief commissioner of the Afghan refugees who works in my office in Islamabad to go and physically contact the chief minister and make sure that nothing of this sort happens. And I can prove this, that except for those 3 incidents which took place in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, not even a single such incident had taken place. These fellows have gone back voluntarily. It is because of the contribution and the money package which UNHCR had extended to them. That is $400 per individual, and generally they have enlarged families. So families were getting something like 800 to 900,000 Pakistani rupees. And this money was good enough to anchor them there in Afghanistan. And let me also inform you that we have carried out a survey through the IOM and also UNHCR. And also from the Afghan government we have checked up, and we have been told that 75% of these fellows who had gone back to their country, they are satisfied and they feel that they had made a correct decision of going back to their country.
So let's bring in Omar Samad.
It is all
Omar
voluntary.
Samad, my apologies, General Baluch. Omar Samad, General Baluch is saying the Pakistanis are not forcing people out of those camps and back across the border. He does not agree with the Human Rights Watch report. What do you think, sir?
Well, as Afghans, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the government, as a former official, I can tell you that for many years we have had constant reports of some level of harassment, extortion, forcing people out of the country from Pakistan. And this has been very much, unfortunately, tied to the political climate between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Whenever the 2 countries have had issues over other matters, Afghan refugees have been put under pressure. And 2016, as the HRW report sort of demonstrates, 2016 has been a very tough year for many Afghan refugees. Having said this, Afghans have always also been appreciative of what Pakistan has done for many, many years now, almost more than 3 decades, to host many Afghans who fled conflict and war and occupation and continued conflict, because we are still in conflict. And Pakistan knows very well what is happening in Afghanistan because of its own involvement through the Taliban. And this is unfortunately a result of how the political climate has been shaping over the past couple of years.
Mr. Samad, before I go to Mr. Baluch and level that sort of accusation about the refugees being used as political pawns, let me ask you, the Pakistanis have 1.5 million registered Afghan refugees. They're not a rich country. Is it really Pakistan's problem that your citizens, the Afghans, are not that keen to go back home when at the moment, by the last count, more than 34% of your country has been retaken by the Taliban? Is that really Pakistan's problem, or is it your problem, Afghanistan's problem?
It's our main problem for Afghanistan, and the Afghan government obviously has to do its share. The international community is saying that it's doing its share, and we appreciate all of that. And as I said, we have been appreciative of what Pakistan has been doing over the years. But the issue is that the situation in Afghanistan is not conducive to the return of hundreds of thousands of people at one time. This has to be done in a much more humanitarian and a much more pragmatic manner. When we talk about realities on the ground, we mean that you cannot force, or you cannot even entice with money, with few dollars more, people who have been living in Pakistan for maybe 30, 40 years. 2 generations have been born in Pakistan. They have not known Afghanistan. And let's not forget that more than 3 million Afghans have returned back to Afghanistan from Pakistan in the past 15 years. This means that the trend is toward returning back to Afghanistan, but it cannot be forced and it cannot be in large-scale, politically motivated action.
Abdul Qadir Baluch, Mr. Samad says that when tensions are high, Pakistan tends to use the Afghan refugees as pawns, as political pawns. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Samad, but that's the inference I got. What do you think, Abdul Qadir Baluch? Is that true?
Yes, I will reply every point which was said by my brother Samad Saab. And first of all, as to whether some harassment had been caused or not, they had been forced or not, I would like Mr. Samad, yourself and everybody, to have a word with the Afghan ambassador who is there in Pakistan, Mr. Zakhail Wal. If he says so, as is being stated by Mr. Samad and the Human Watch, whatever they have written about it, then we will agree with them and we will take the blame on ourselves. But I am very, very sure, I can assure you that there will be nothing of this sort is going to come from his side. That's point number one. Point number two is that these fellows, Afghan refugees, starting off with a number of 5 million, coming out of Afghanistan in year 79 and in between 79 until about 81, 82, 5 million of them, and living here in Pakistan for 38 years now. Is that the fault of Pakistan? Is that the responsibility of Pakistan? Is it this humanitarian assistance which Pakistan had extended? Is it, should they be taken to task and being blamed that they are doing something which is totally wrong? These fellows had the option about 7-8 years back when the registration was being carried out of the Afghan refugees. The fellows who did not opt for being refugees, they are aliens living in Pakistan. We are even now, we have agreed that we will go for registration of them again with our own money without getting any assistance from anywhere.
This is very eloquent and it's quite rhetorical, and you're making the case very well, but you're not answering the question. Is Pakistan using these refugees as pawns when there's tension with Afghanistan? Are they putting pressure on them when there's tension with Afghanistan?
This is totally wrong. It is totally wrong. The Afghan police, the Afghan armed forces, they shot one of our majors dead and a number of other soldiers on the border, but we are treating this issue as a humanitarian issue. It has nothing to do with the relationship of Pakistan. There are ups and downs in it, and we are very sure that these things, the relations between these two countries will get stabilized, because we just cannot afford to remain in enmity with one another. We have to live together. We are neighbors. As a good neighbor, it's a requirement. But while we have some other neighbors who are interested to create some sort of a tension between these two countries, and those neighbors are very well known for their designs and desires. And there are many, I mean, with all the regard and respect, even in Afghan administration also, there are people who would like to play it the way that our arch enemy wants it to be done.
Who do you mean, India?
Yes, I'm meaning that.
Okay.
And it's mainly from that side. Otherwise, let me now again, I will ask Mr. Samad, 38 years down the line that they have been living, they should quote just one instance where our civilian population who was living side by side with them, that there was a tension or there was a fight or there was a firing or there was killing or anything of that sort.
Okay, so let's, Mr. Samad, do you want to answer that and then we'll wrap up because we are out of time. Mr. Samad?
Well, Mr. Baluch, the minister knows very well what the history is. Every Afghan knows what the history is. Every inhabitant of Fatah and the tribal regions, whether in Balochistan or in Pakhtunkhwa, they all know what the history is. We all know how many Afghans have been assassinated in Pakistan over the years. We know every Afghan who has been harassed or detained for no reason or has disappeared. We have all those numbers and those facts. We don't want to go back into 30, 40 years of history that is good and bad. And as I said, Afghans were appreciative. Let's not forget, it started with the Soviet invasion. It is the Afghan people who paid a huge price. Pakistan helped. We were allies in the fight against communism. We were brothers, and we unfortunately took separate routes because of policies and strategies that were not conducive to a common goal. Now we have 3 to 4 million who have returned back from Iran and Pakistan. That is a huge number for a country like Afghanistan to reabsorb given its situation. Now we have more or less 1 million Afghans still in Pakistan. What we are asking is for a gradual return, voluntary return, given the situation in Afghanistan on the ground. We cannot absorb 600,000 people in 1 year. That is not realistic, and that smells of a, as I said, politically motivated decision.
Okay.
This is why the UNHCR has to do a better job. The UNHCR has been doing a good job, but it has to work with all sides and understand that it cannot help in the forced repatriation with money of people who are not ready to move. We need to make sure that the ground is ready for them to move back, and I'm sure that once that is done, every Afghan will return back to their homeland.
Okay, unfortunately, I've got to wrap it at that point. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having both of you on the program. Abdul Qadir Baluch and Omar Samad, thank you very much for joining us.